Or
reading
teacher can have
obituaries.
authorized
Yeah.
for the schedule for reception. So I know you can use.
All right. I'm gonna disrupt everybody's conversation and get this meeting started. You can stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of
the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, roll call.
Yoder,
Here.
Noonan, absent prior notice. Black, absent prior notice. Brown.
Here.
Rush, absent prior notice. Fenlon,
Present.
Lautner,
Present.
McDonald,
Here.
Miller, absent prior notice. Nixon,
Here.
and Freaky.
Here.
Appreciate everybody coming tonight. Next up, we have consideration of the agenda. Yes, the items on there. Is there any additions or deletions? If not, I'll take a motion.
I would suggest under reports, I think we discussed last meeting that we might eliminate that from
Oh,
our agenda and just let those comments flow out of the mouths of we who are commissioners that have something to say.
okay. Yep. And just before adjournment there.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Thank you. And I move that we approve the agenda with that one correction as presented.
All right.
Support.
All right, motion made by Mr. Nixon, support by Mr. McDonald, to approve the agenda as amended. Any further discussion? Not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. So we have conflict of interest. Are there any commissioners here that have a conflict with any items on the agenda here tonight? None. Move on to public comments. We have none. And staff comments. Not right now. All right. Move along here. Next up, we have our consideration of the January 23, 2024 meeting minutes. So if everybody has a chance to review those, any questions on those.
The only thing I got would be members absent, you have B brush instead of art.
Not Bruce. All right, any other questions on minutes? Not, I will take a motion to approve the minutes
I
as
would
amended.
move they be approved with the one slight correction.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Lautner, support,
Support.
supported by Mrs. Brown. Any further discussion? Not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right, next up, we're under new business. Item 1, Glen Arbor Township text amendment, content neutral language. I'll let staff take the lead on this.
If you recall, this request was received back in December. I reached out to the township and asked them for a marked up copy of what the proposed amendments were. It was just too messy for us to use, to be of any use. So then we asked if we could postpone this until February meeting to have more time for members to review. So the requested action is to review and comment on proposed text amendments to the township zoning ordinance to reorganize with content neutral changes. The Glen Arbor Township Master Plan does not specifically address this amendment, and neither does the Leelanau General Plan. Public hearing was held on December 7th. No public comment was received. After the public hearing, a motion was passed to forward the amended content neutral ordinance to Leelanau County for review. Section 4 of the analysis. Is the proposed text compatible with other languages in the zoning ordinance? Yes. Are there any issues with the proposed text? No. got issues are greater than local concern. No. Do the contents of the proposed text amendment conflict with the community's plan? No. And comparison with county plans or ordinances, do the contents of the proposed text amendments conflict with the general plan? No. And then under staff comments, the township has been working on this amendment for the last few years, and according to them, the entire zoning ordinance was reorganized in a content neutral manner. There were no substantial content changes other than typos, spelling, run-on sentences, etc. A lot of items in the narrative description were moved into tables to make the ordinance more readable and to flow better. That's all I have.
All right. Everybody had a chance to review that this last month. Start with Commissioner Lauer. Did you have anything?
Yep, I have nothing to add.
Okay. Mr. Brown?
Quite a few things that come across.
Okay, good.
Page 3, under Article 3, Section 3.2. I see that bold and everything else is just standard text. Page 4, under administration, very bottom, I think they have a carryover of the section 14.11, notice for public hearings. It's kind of included in the title, but they identified the new section next to that. So I think it's kind of something that got carried over. When I looked into their old zoning ordinance, that's where it used to be. Same with on page 5, under definitions. In the description, they have section 2.2 definitions. I think that's a carryover also from the old one, what I found when I looked up the old one. Page 8, section 3.7 driveways. They have a minimum right of way of 12 feet in width. That doesn't accommodate any of our driveways. So I think they need to reword that maybe to say something to the effect in accordance with requirements of Leelanau County Road Commission driveway standards and administrative rules regulating driveways, banners, and parades. Section R 2.7.2.32. 2 is in parentheses.
Do you suppose that, yeah, do you suppose that their fire department only has for 12? Would that override the road commissioner, the road commissioner overrides the? Okay,
12 might be their minimum, but we override
okay,
what the driveway would have. As long as we're not under what they have.
okay.
Page 15, they kind of scrunched the title up at the very top. I don't know if they want to try and put a space to make it look. Sounds like they're trying to reorganize it, make it look neater and cleaner. Page 16. The very top line has nothing identifying what the requirement is. But as you take it across under resort and recreation, there's a couple items identified. I don't know if they're supposed to be combined with what's below, but they've got a line separating it. And then also, again, in there, they have driveway minimum right of way as 12 foot across the board. Probably be adjusted to be able to accommodate driveways. And in there, they can call the road commission if they want to work with them on that. Same with page 17, they have a line item with no requirement listed, but under business, they have the word allowed, so I'm not sure what they mean by that. page 20. Under section 8, 4.3 plan profile. Section B is American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, AASHTO, its policy on geometric design of highways and streets.
Not and.
Under 8.45 grading and structure, under B, where the depth of fill exceeds 10 feet, that should be 5 in accordance with MDOT guidelines. That's the reason I went with 5. That was all in there. Page 21. Section 8, 4.8 gravel or bituminous base courses. Under A, in parentheses, it should probably state MDOT standard specifications for construction instead of Michigan DOT standard. Page 34, under section 11.1, the bullet points down below are a different font than everything else. I don't know if they're trying to make that stand out. On page 44, that's where in the table of contents, I noted this additional where it says the old section number. It's also shown on within the article there. And the same with on page 49 of 57, and section 16.6, they have the old section as a carryover. On that, is it?
Great set of eyes. Nixon?
I also have a few, I think overall, I looked at them trying to reorganize this so it'd be easier to read. But I found they're really lacking, and this is actually just a draft of what they're going to finish up, because the alignment of all their sections and subsections needs straightening out. And I would suggest that they move things to the left and align them everywhere in this document. I also would suggest that they might consider moving the definitions, which are on page 49, earlier in the document than clear at the end. And they have a separate section, I believe, for just signage. And I think those words could be incorporated in the definition too, so that definitions are definitions. They're handling all of the explanations that they have. I was really impressed with their page 2. I don't know, I may be the only one, I've never seen a document that carried the history of the amendments and changes to their ordinance. And I thought that was really impressive. On page 10, yeah, I like what they've done with Article 5. And their graphing in there is very clear. The user can go in and see right away the use permitted and understand what zone is permitted in or not permitted in. But I would suggest that on page 11, which is the end of those use permits, that they might consider eliminating or moving the category governmental to the very bottom, so that the footnotes that they have there, 8 through 12, align themselves with the uses permitted up above. And since government is such a oddity in itself, I don't mean that frankly, descriptive here, it might be easier for the reader to know what's going on if government was pulled separate from that chart, where all the others are. That would allow the footnotes really to correspond to all of their permitted uses. Again, lots of lining problems. And I thought on page 29, I was quite surprised to see suddenly there was some color. And it shows a bunch of, I would say, characterized signs. But I wasn't sure why they had inserted that. Because in those signs, there are little alphabetical numbers, A, B, C, D, and E, that I tried to see if they would correspond to the footnotes they've got below them, and I don't believe they do. So I'm not sure if they just inserted those for a break, but I don't think those green signs offer a lot of assistance. Those are my comments.
Mr. McDonald?
Nothing significant to add, other than the formatting. Needs work.
Speaking.
Well, since this was my first one, I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do.
Okay, well, I'm assuming you learned a lot then.
I had to read the whole thing, so.
Oh,
And, you know, I found some typos and that kind of stuff, but the directions that as I understood, was that this was just a reformatting of an existing document. So, you have a lot of attention to what the requirements are, and all that kind of stuff. And one final comment is, I think I prefer to have all of the stuff that applicable to a particular zone in one set of paragraphs, and then another zone, in another set of, even though you can repeat the same things, it's just easier to me. But that's it. So I don't have anything beyond the associates.
Okay, she's having a hard time hearing.
just make sure you're speaking to the mic when you, that way. 'cause
I'll be
everything's
this way.
recorded.
That's a little better. Yeah, bring your mic down.
Sorry.
Did you want to repeat any of that? If you can repeat some of that, just so they have it.
Oh my. I'll start at the beginning then. Since this was my first one, I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do. And so I ended up, I read the whole thing. And I was looking for things that I thought might be in violation of something, or something was changed, and I didn't find any of that. And I didn't particularly pay any attention to the specifics of the contents, because the said contents didn't change, and so I would assume that it was already approved. And finally, in the reorganization of the document, in my personal choice, I would rather have the requirements of a specific zone be either given under the specific zone as opposed to tables in that case. But that's just a personal preference. So nothing of any consequence.
All right, Mr. Fenlon?
You guys covered that pretty well. Gonna leave it at that, nothing further.
All right. Yeah, well, Mr. Nixon kind of took all my comments that I had, so. My main comments were just, the definitions. I'd much rather choose them in the front of the ordinance rather than the back, because generally they are at the beginning. And then formatting, and different things like that, so that was my main catches that I found to it, so. Mr. Nixon, yes.
I did forget to add one small thing. If one looks on page 18, thank you, Rick. There needs to be a space between use and provisions there at the top. But that's where my concern is. When you look at the top of that page, it says article, Roman numeral 8. If they would shift that article 8 clear to the left, and then clean up the special land use provision so it's separate, I think that page would be much cleaner.
Attach.
I did have one other item too that I forgot to mention, section 3.1 under scope. They repeated the last sentence twice.
Any emphasis perhaps?
Apparently,
Any other comments?
You actually had one question, and I wasn't sure when reviewing the document, but do we have like, is this it? The date is obviously old. And do they have like a updated version of the document then?
Well, this is, from my understanding, this has been something they've been working on for quite a while, so once this gets approved as township board, all the dates will be updated to current.
Okay.
I understand, that's generally how townships work on that matter, so.
Yeah, and I guess my misunderstanding would have been, I thought they would provide the finished, or supposed to finish document first, but
Right, generally.
I was a little
blank-
confused, but these guys really took the lead on this one. Craig, I especially appreciate, I wouldn't have known a lot of the various kind of intricacies of, you know, road construction stuff that he knew, so. But that was my question.
Mr. Nixon?
If,
Yeah.
Brian, if you look on their page 2, where they list all of their changes and versions, the very last one has a bunch of question marks, but it's dated 2024 and it'll become version 5.0, which is the content neutral ordinance reorganization. I think that might speak to your
Okay,
question. It's just that we didn't have a fully, I don't think we've received their fully final clean
See,
copy.
because that you
yeah,
see what I'm seeing.
you have the old
So I don't have
zoning
the right
ordinance,
one.
you don't have the
Yeah,
one
I
that
don't
was
have the right
sent
one.
out by Gale, so that's probably the problem.
Yeah.
Because the one that's sent out by Gale states that they're December 7th,
Right.
2023 proposed in red.
And I must not have that,
So yeah, that's not the one you have, so.
which would make sense, but I was a little confused. Yeah. Okay, well, that clears that.
That's what we should. That's what we should review.
All right, any other closing comments? All right, if there is none, I will take a motion to forward this on to Ann Arbor Township with the recommendation of local staff.
So moved.
All right, I guess. You making the motion or?
I'm making a
All
motion.
right,
You worded it so well.
all right,
second that.
all right. Is that Mr. McDonald or? Okay, motion's been made by Mr. Nixon, supported by Mr. McDonald. Any further discussion? All right, not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right, next up, we have under new business, 2, Village of Empire text amendment. Staff, take the lead on this.
Sure, this request from the Village of Empire was received February 15th. The last day to review under the 30-day review period is March 16th. Under section 3, the township plan, the Village of Empire master plan states the following on page 51. Future land use recommendations. The intent of the light industrial district is to accommodate existing light industrial uses and to encourage and provide opportunities for additional light industry, including wholesale and warehousing uses, as well as activities like research laboratories, high-tech industries, light assembly operations, office space, and commercial uses that support light industrial activities. The Leelanau general plan does not specifically address this amendment. Township held a public hearing on February 6th, at which time several comments and questions were made. After the public hearing, they passed a motion to approve the proposed text amendments, and then following that, they passed a motion to forward the amendments onto the county for review. Under section 4, analysis, is the proposed text compatible with other languages of zoning ordinance? Yes. Are there any issues with the proposed text? No. Moving on to issues of greater than local concern, does the proposed text amendment include any issues of greater than local concern? No. Do the contents of the proposed text amendment conflict with the community's plan? No, it does not. Do the contents of the proposed text amendments conflict with the general plan? No, they do not. Moving down to staff comments, the proposed amendment will add the following. Number 6, to Article 4, zoning districts and map. Number 6 reads combination of uses, subject to section 4.06.5. They are adding that new section 4.06.5 to Article 4, zoning districts and map. And that new section 4.06.5, combination of uses, is going to read, in the review of site plans and or special land use permit applications for uses involving combinations of uses otherwise permitted by right or by special land use approval in the LI district, the planning commission shall find that all such uses be mutually compatible with one another, and the all special use standards applicable to any such component use in a combined land use shall be met for that component use. However, recognizing the potential unnecessary duplication of parking requirements for each use, the planning commission may reduce the overall parking requirement on the parcel at 25% if they are satisfied with the sufficiency of the parking at the reduced amount proposed by the applicants. The proposed amendment was made by Mark Keller of Coon Rogers, who was representing TC Vision, which is Cherry Republic. They are seeking to amend the zoning ordinance in the LI district to allow for a mix of uses permitted by right or special use permit. This is in preparation for the combination of two parcels for enhanced efficiency, job creation, and improved storage solutions for the community.
Mr. Wellner?
Is this the old lumber mill on the west side of the village? Is that
This
where
is Cherry Republic for their packaging plant, better recycling.
Where the recycling plant.
Yeah.
Oh, it's over on the north side.
Yeah, where the park, the park is.
Okay. Something's supposed to be happening at the old lumber place, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that sold or?
Well, they're using brown funds.
Oh,
Trying to
okay, it's
redevelop,
Brownfield,
yeah.
that's why I heard about it. Okay, that would be really nice. Shoot, I was kind of hoping that, so this is just as processing down on the other end of. No, it just made a lot of sense to me. If they had to develop this use or section to make it work for him, I thought they did a good job and I like it. Just makes a lot of sense. And it just made a lot of sense, and I like the idea that they're trying to keep them there, working with them, and I liked it. I didn't see anything else with it.
All right, Mr. Brown?
I really didn't see any issues with it. The fact that that's the only section or area that they have light industrial use in the village itself, that just taking those two parcels and combining them and still allowing the use of what the zoning ordinance does allow and be able to combine different uses on that property. And I don't see no issue with it, so.
Mr. Nixon?
On page 31 of ours, which is their page 415, it lists all of the uses that are subject to special use as well as the permitted uses. And my concern reading through this was they're basically saying, I think this is what I understood, they're basically saying to the planning commission that if there's something else added in these sites, they've got to make a determination, is it compatible with other uses on that property? And I see these uses are pretty extensive in here. And somehow they're going to need to determine that if any of these come onto this site, how to make it compatible with the existing structure. But I think I understood they're not getting rid of what must be storage sheds on there now. And so whatever is going to come is going to have to be compatible with the storage sheds. And I thought I read in there it was going to be an expansion of an existing facility, but what is the existing facility? Does anybody know?
That's their processing facility and packaging facility for Cherry Republic.
Oh, is it?
Mostly, I think, their packaging, so.
So they're enlarging that. Anyway,
Yeah.
they don't wanna destroy the storage sheds, which they would have to do. Is that right, Gail?
That's the way I understood it, yes.
Okay, okay. I don't have any problem with this. Just with that clarity, that helps. Thank you.
No,
I would say I'm generally in favor of anything that grants more flexibility for the planning commission to work with businesses.
Emma?
I welcome the change and I don't see any issue with it.
Same here. I have nothing to add. Spoken, any other closing questions or comments? If not, I'll need a motion.
Or motion to approve or send recommendation for approval to Empire regarding the change in there. So,
For staff.
and also for our comments as well as staff comments.
Support for that? Support of Mr. Brown. Any further discussion? None. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those same sign. Motion carried. Sorry. Next up, we have a discussion about the annual planning session. So Gail, a little bit beforehand, I was just looking at my calendar before we got here. It looks like in 22 we had it in spring, and 23 we had it in fall. So I guess just talking to staff beforehand, if everybody be okay with having this in the fall, I guess, because they're short staffed and just allows them more time to look into things like that. Do you want to add anything to that, Gail, or?
Well, that's pretty much it. Yeah, long and give me some time to. maybe come up
I was
with
thinking about
topics and,
4th of
you know.
July.
Now, if I
That
recall,
weekend.
that was in October.
September.
It was September.
Yeah, generally it's in
Okay.
September, generally, I believe,
So
so.
just at the tail end, so that's okay. I should
Maybe just wait for it to start.
I always have a good heads up too. Obviously, we're gonna plan just around that.
Right.
And I do know that the room is available on Wednesday, September 26th.
Everybody
September
okay with
26th,
locking that in?
If you notice, if it was to be held in the springtime, you'd not only be preparing for the workshop, but the day before you would be preparing for this meeting. You'd be extremely busy, both of you would be.
We are extremely busy.
I could certainly support moving it to the 26th as well.
Yeah, I think that sounds
So the
good.
26th is on a Thursday, is that what you were planning, or? I believe, unless I'm on the wrong date.
September 26th is a Thursday.
Wednesday, the 25th, is that what it should be?
Last year it was on Wednesday.
Okay, so like Wednesday, the 25th.
Locked
It
in,
was Wednesday the 20th. last year.
September the 25th,
Oh, for this one, yeah.
yeah, for this year. Everybody okay with that? See a couple head nods, so yeah, yes. Going with that, and then I guess, yeah, if it gets closer, if you need
Yeah,
topics, and anybody has suggestions, I guess, just send them to staff.
Can we discuss, whoops,
Yeah.
can we just discuss
Go ahead.
well, this has been weighing heavy on my mind. Well, it always weighs heavy on my mind, but recently, we've got a couple things going on, with taxation. So we brought up the idea of having an educational session on taxation. And so I just want everybody to just kind of think about that a little bit. So a few of the things that are going on, a couple different things. I had a commissioner, I was talking about taxation and how it's getting really too difficult for farmers to pay their taxes because of the millages. And this other commissioner said to me that she said, well, we all pay the same thing. So, I mean, really no idea how taxation works. So, the other thing is, and we've got another commissioner that always says our millage rate is so low. So, I always explain to her that our millage rate is so low because our taxable is so high. We don't need a lot of millage to bring in more dollars than they can downstate, where they don't have the land values we have up here. And she never really seems to get that or understand it. And then I saw the same quote in the Record Eagle a couple of weeks ago on like a school millage or something, said the same thing. Well, our millage rates are so low up here. Because if you come from the Detroit area, you know, they can have 12 mills. And that will bring in as much as 3 will here in Leelanau County. So, and I think what really makes the issue so much more, well, I say dangerous to farmers because I like to look out for the agricultural, but people who are rolling their taxes into their mortgages, they never really see their tax bill. So they don't understand, they're not, and in some cases, I guess they don't even see them. Because we have the problem at the township, if we want to send like a survey in our tax bill, they go to the mortgage companies and our residents aren't getting them. So they have no idea what they're paying for millages and what they're costing them. And of course, the other one that always irks me is the average. But we have, our taxes are going to be up 5% this year and another 5% next year here, and it's alarming. So I just thought, oh, the other thing is too, which is even more alarming, is that a lot of people don't really understand Proposal A and how that's keeping farms in families today. But if we were to lose Proposal A, so I'm going to use myself for an example, even though we shouldn't, but with Proposal A, my farmland is all capped. Okay, so it's all capped at its value. Well, my tax assessor says it's going to be worth. So fortunately, that's capped. And even capped, it's $10,000 a year taxes. But if they were to eliminate Proposal A tomorrow, my taxes would go up to over $40,000. You know, just like that. So, and I'm just a small farm, but I think that we can all imagine what's going to happen to our farmland if that were to happen up here. But southern, you know, southeast Michigan, they've been talking about eliminating Proposal A, which would just be devastating to northern Michigan. So, you know, the whole, I just don't know how to educate, because a lot of people don't realize too that, you know, Michigan is we're taxed for its best use. We're not, so like, again, my farmland isn't taxed on the value of farmland. It's taxed at its highest and best use, which is of course houses. That means we're soaked, I should say. So anyway, that's just a thought. So think about that. It would maybe sometime I think it would be really interesting to.
So to join your thought, we love to have that conversation in our area, because once the board of review meetings begin, people come to those meetings with their one impression that they're to talk about their taxes, not about the value that's been extended to the property. And even where I lived 400 years ago downstate, that was continually a problem in terms of school millage and helping people understand the difference between the taxes and their assessed value. You know, that might be a workshop that would have a broad interest in it. It does have some relative concern for planning, I think, because realtors and people who are buying farms, suddenly that cap comes off. And those family members are faced with an enormous amount of taxation. As is true in anyone purchasing a home. The surprise of the year has been how much people have they look at the realtor's statement of taxes and say, that looks good. Until they go to the closing and realize the cap has come off.
Yep.
And they're paying 4 times as much the taxes as the original property owner in some cases. But I would agree with you. I think the topic would have some broad appeal. And yet I would wonder if there aren't additional topics that would relate to planning, directly to planning too. I think assessors would be a good source of people to come in and speak to that. Assessor we use in Sutton Bay and elsewhere, you all have assessors in your township.
Waiting for a call back as we speak.
Right. They could certainly provide a program for us, I'm sure, if that was the direction we want to go, but, you know, I want to talk to our zoning administrator, Steve Batmore, just to see if there's topical things out there that he would appreciate having some input to, and then, you know, you look at our new planner. And Gail, you're in the hot seat for information coming, and so I think we want to look at what you are hearing might be topical things too, and get closer to that.
Well, and you bring up something else too, and our equalization director just presented us with our, or the 4420 or one of those, which explained how the whole, where our taxes are going. In fact, I think they had one chart in the newspaper, showing which each township and how much they're going up per division, like residential. But he was showing Solon Township, and I know the 2 pieces of farmland that had sold in Solon Township that he was able to use as his, you might have to help me with the word, he uses them as his guide to what farmland is valued at, are 2 pieces that sold for housing or business. So they're just simply not going to be farmed anymore, because they sold, I think, at 12,000 an acre and maybe 10,000 an acre. I don't remember right off. So they're not going to be farmed, and they sold not to be farmed. So if the person selling them had had them rezoned, or taken them off of agriculture before they were sold, it wouldn't drive our ag values so high. But yeah.
Any other topics or questions? Yes.
Since it sounds like everybody here has been to one of these planning sessions, and I have.
All right.
So what is it?
So typically this county planning commission annually, we put on a training session of various topics. I know in the past we put on a topic about the new sign regulations that came down, or a new ordinance, medical marijuana ordinance that's been put in effect, just new things that are coming.
Yeah, right to farm.
Right to farm, always we have right to farm. Just an educational training session that planning members of the community or the public can attend to inform themselves and educate themselves on various aspects of planning.
So that's different than the list of, that Gail sent out, but the training programs that are there.
Correct.
So that's
Yep.
2 different.
That's 2 different things. Yep. This annual session doesn't credit to any of the members attending a training session. That's obviously this session is free that we put on. We're the ones that Gail would send out as a cost. I don't know that you want to attend one of those, but yeah, that's entirely different.
All right.
Thank
Did you do an accessory dwelling unit annual meeting? Or have we just been discussing that here?
I don't know if we have, but I know we talked about it a lot in the community, but that might be a topic.
Did we do short-term rentals once? Did we do short-term?
We did.
I think years ago, we did accessory dwellings, years ago, that became hot.
Because those are all spin-offs too from the whole taxation issue too, and so.
Well, and I would certainly argue or contend that those things constantly change. So it's probably not a bad idea to keep them on our radar. I mean, maybe not, you wouldn't want to do the same one, every year, of course, but if it's been 5 years or 8 years or however long, it might be worth revisiting, just because things are constantly kind of changing in those regards, so.
All right, so I guess everybody here could just keep it on their mind, and if something, topic comes up, if you can just forward it on to staff, that's that on the radar, and then they can look for speakers to come, for session stuff, so. Anything you wanted to add on to that, Morgale, or no?
No.
Good with that? Alright. Alright, we'll move on to reports, Housing Action Committee. Shawna.
We have not met. I think we meet in March next. You would all seen, if you read the ticker at all, I generally don't, but I do know there was an article in there about Corey Glasgow housing development down in Cedar. He made it as affordable as possible. So it's been a while since I read it, but I remember it being a good article, but I think there's been a couple others as well, so. It just is what it is over in our county, but it will meet on the 11th.
Parks and Rec, Mr. Newton is not here, we attend that as well.
Yes, Parks and Recreation, we are trying to get a new Parks and Recreation plan for the next 5 years, which would be 25 through 29. And the only reason we need a park plan is if we want to go for grant dollars from the state, we have to have a plan. And the plan is turning out to be quite costly. But apparently it has to be done. A real issue that we've got right now is we've got a park plan, but the last firm that made the plan kept basically the copyright on the plan. So we can't take the plan and just make changes to it. So we're looking at two different things. Some people want to just use the same firm and get another park plan through them. I'm pushing for us to go out for bid and get a park plan that we own and it's ours and we could change, because I'm sure that's something we can do easy enough. We just have to have, the changes are minimal.
I never heard anybody.
I had not.
But that would affect master plan.
That was way down.
Zoning ordinance.
Fine print.
Wow. We should bury it in some letter.
Good job, security.
Yeah.
It is. Wow.
Every 5 years, we
Yeah.
get more business.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Maybe more fine print there. Wow.
Alright.
Otherwise, we're just getting opened up, starting the season. So. Works.
I will work it.
Mhm.
Doesn't feel like it. No.
Well, we'll feel like it tomorrow, not like it today.
Alright, do we have any communications?
Yeah.
Oh, I could share very briefly, I'll try to make it very brief. I did attend my,
Let's do that at the last.
oh, yeah, that's right,
Last,
sorry.
yeah, move that down, so, yep. No public comments, staff comments, anything more on that?
Thank you for your support.
Congratulations.
Stuff where the commission comments is spent.
No comments? You're good? Okay. So I did attend earlier this month, a regular Leelanau Township meeting, which is where I live. And there was actually quite a few people. I was surprised to see how many people were in attendance. They're working on trying to get sidewalks done across from Dick's in that general area, right downtown Lake Leelanau, alongside where Manitou Marine is, and there's some issues there, but they're gonna figure it out. It was basically really expensive to tear out the old sidewalk, so they're kind of holding to see if they can not tear that out at such a cost, because they're just gonna basically go right over it. The only other thing that I thought was very interesting was the sewer commission, or the board, I should say, only has 2 people on it, and has been that way, I guess, for some time. This is news to me, so can only blame myself for my ignorance, I suppose. But my understanding is that's not really considered okay, and I'm just curious if maybe anyone else had a comment on that per se. Yeah, that was it.
Is that the county?
This is for Leelanau Township.
Leelanau
Um,
Township.
and there was some disgruntled people in the audience that made comment. I was just there to observe, but it was definitely not something you wanna probably do for very long. And I also heard that there was an individual that attempted to be appointed to the board and was turned down, which seemed very silly to me, and I don't know if you could defend that very well if you had a person who, I mean, what's the requirement? You live in Leelanau Township and you have a mind to be, I mean, I don't, you probably would like an engineer, right? But you just, there's only two, you have no quorum. All right, anyways, that's my comments, so.
But that's been. in
For
place
quite some time, apparently.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Brian, so you might talk to Steve Bukowski sometime. Lives in Lake Leelanau, and he knows all the history on.
He was at the meeting.
Yeah, he knows all the history, they fought it very, very hard, and it doesn't even circle the entire lake, that's what's just crazy. He's got all the history on it, and there was some shenanigans with the bonding and all sorts of things with that system. I'm with you. I don't think it would hurt to have at least 3 and
Hopefully 5.
possibly 5. Yeah.
Mr. Creaky? No?
Last Wednesday, the Northport Planning Commission completed review of their redraft of their zoning ordinance, so we'll probably be seeing that soon. And they're just gonna start working on the master plan.
I would say the same for Suns Bay Township. The planning commission is now in the process of selecting a consultant to get them through the ordinance revision that they've been working on for over 5 years. And I think they've come to the realization that external help might be very valuable to the right. Plus, they're looking at having some consultants assist with the development of a master plan. Another 5 years.
Brown.
Road Commission received their bids a couple weeks ago, and everything was reviewed. Pretty much all of our bids, actually all of our bids did come in under budget. So we're very happy about that. So pretty much able to do all the projects we have planned. And then we'll see where things end up and possibly be able to add another project or 2. We had one more bid opening today. The bridge over Victoria Creek and Cedar needs some work, so we had a bid come in. That came in well under our budget, so hopefully it'll be recommended by our board next week and be able to start that work late March, first part of April. And it should only take a couple of weeks. There's gonna be lane closures and stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, this year, hopefully, yeah, we need to get it done before the end of April. So, some state requirements that mandating we get it taken care of.
A couple of years ago, they had the new law, there was some talk a few years ago about us having to tear out that bridge and redo it, and we bought it. And they determined that because it's such a short bridge that, like say a load of semi full of cherries, it wouldn't have all the axles on the bridge at the same time, so we were allowed to leave the bridge. But this is, I mean, leave it as it was. But this sounds like something different.
It's kind of on the same aspect as, so the bridge, I'll get too technical. You have your beams and then you have your deck sitting on top of it. They're just, all it's doing is sitting there. So anytime something drives over it, those 2 components can move. So the bridge is considered non-composite, so if things can move, it takes away the ability for that bridge to hold loads.
Okay.
So what we're doing is we're drilling up through the beams into the concrete, putting pins in there. Now the concrete and the beams are gonna work together and be able to hold more load.
Okay.
Okay, so you don't have to
So we won't-
replace the whole bridge, you
No.
just have this. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for that.
So that way it'll be able to hold more load and we won't have to put load restrictions on the bridge.
Perfect. Sorry.
I will note, Solon Township, we're very likely to be in the next 12 months getting our master plan. We're just kind of finalizing that up, so. Everybody else, but you'll be getting that, for review. Things did get pushed back a little bit. We had our zoning administrator resign, so we gotta have a new one by the beginning of April, so. So yeah, and then we'll have a text amendment coming as well regarding our zoning ordinance as well, regarding EVs, so. Yeah. So yeah, we'll be having a zoning administrator by April 1st, hopefully, so. Yeah, other than that, nothing. I just wanted to congratulate Gail on your new position. I'm sure you'll do well and look forward to working with you, so. See you around a while. With that, unless there's any further items to discuss, we'll adjourn.